Okay, I'm going to go through some of the major points of spelling by pattern for word detectives, okay? How you do this program. Um, and I'll send this PowerPoint to everyone also after we get done. So first of all, this is the manual that you have, and the whole point of this manual is to teach kids to make educated guesses, to make best guesses when they hear an unknown word. Okay. So what happens in stage 2, which is spelling by pattern for children, they're now past spelling by sound. They don't need ITA anymore, or maybe they do for longer words like slash and dash, but they don't need to be in it all the time because they've cracked that sound code. They now start to learn that the same sound can be made by different letters, like k can be spelled even more ways than are listed there. And A, of course, can be spelled in all 8 different ways. And then sometimes they can learn that some patterns, letter patterns, can be pronounced differently. So few and so and cow and no. This is all wrapped up in who invaded Britain at what time and changed some of our language. And that's way more than what I want to go through today, but it's fascinating to know about. In any case, this manual focuses almost exclusively on same sound, different letters. Because the point is, for the kids, if you hear a word and you don't know how to spell it, what are you going to guess? What sound, what spelling are you going to guess for that sound? By the way, I think you all know if you want to ask a question, jump in. So if you look at page 5 of your manual, you're going to see that, oh, you know what? You don't need to do the manual yet. I'm sorry. I'll just show you. This is the teaching sequence. We'll go through that in the manual itself. And then there's also what kinds of materials need to be prepared in order to teach this face to face. And I'll talk about that. You're not going to be doing that. You're still doing it online, but you'll have some materials to prepare. Okay. But it's important to get yourself ready. You got to think like a kid who can't spell. Okay. Just like with slash and dash, you know where those syllable breaks come, but that's not the auditory syllable breaks. So you have to think, okay, if I don't know how to spell conundrum, am I going to guess a K or a C? Okay. And when you know the pattern, you would guess a C. That I'll give that to you. Okay. The other thing is, you don't need to be an expert. If the kids come up with yabbits, or why isn't that follow the pattern, you will see some resources, especially this online etymology dictionary, which is an awesome resource for why it's spelled differently. But if you can't answer it, if you can't find the answer, you can tell the kids, well, probably that word used to be pronounced differently. And most of the time, you're going to be correct. Because many of the words, especially from Anglo-Saxon that we inherited, were pronounced phonetically, like kama, nam for name. They were pronounced phonetically and they aren't anymore. Okay. And you want to empower your students to be word detectives. So you can log into that etymology dictionary with these yabbats as you go through that part of the lesson. So there are some nomenclature, some vocabulary that kids need to know in order to take advantage of this. They need to know what a long vowel and a short vowel is. So spend a little bit of time checking whether they can do, is Sam a short vowel or long vowel? Is same a short vowel or long vowel? Okay, make sure they know that. And syllables. If you've been doing slash and dash with them, they should know syllables, right? Then a new word for them might be polysyllabic. I use that a lot in the dictionary, and I think it's a good word for the kids to learn. You can just say, that's words with more than one syllable. Poly means many, so polysyllabic. That's essentially what you want to be sure they know before they start. This is if you can work with more than one at a time. 2 kids working together works awesome. So Bridget, what grade were you thinking of hoping to teach again?
Like in the future after I graduate?
Yeah.
Somewhere like second, third, or fourth.
This is perfect for you. Absolutely perfect. So set up study buddies. You've got a manual for teaching spelling here that's so much better than what we've done for the last 70, 80 years. Okay. And you can email me anytime I have a question on that. And encourage yabbats. Can you think of some that don't follow this pattern? We're going to do a few of those. And you constantly reinforce the reading and spelling connection. Because if you read a lot, you're likely going to remember the spelling for words. And when you know spelling patterns, you're going to do better at sounding out words. So encourage that. You will see me reminding you of that as we go through this manual. Now, here's testing. The usual spelling pattern, spelling program gives kids new words on Monday. They study them all week. They take a test on Friday. And on Monday, it's what I call the Niagara Falls. They forget them. Okay. You're not going to test the words that are sorted. That's plain memorization. You will not be testing on those. You will be testing on some non-words and challenge words, words that are like maybe 3 grade levels higher. And they're all listed in this manual. It's all there for you. Because what you want to do is test their knowledge of the pattern. Not do they remember how the word is spelled, but can they figure out what pattern for an unknown word, okay? So the question is, what pattern do you guess when you hear X sound in an unknown word? And score that test with your student. Discuss why they chose that pattern. Many of the words as we get further in the manual are going to have more than one pattern in them. And so you could be reminding them, okay, that has an A in it. Why did you choose AI? Or why did you choose open syllable A? Okay. So those are guidelines. So this is for you for fall. And I'll tell you about this more later. The sound steps to reading are pattern-based reading stories that are useful for the long vowel sounds. Okay, but we can skip that for right now. So to teach, the general procedure is start with a sound that has 2 or more spellings. J, does it start with a J or a G? You list 20 to 30 words. Have the students sort according to the sound. The first day that you set up a new pattern, you will probably spend the time that you have just sorting by sound and maybe getting to the pattern. That's probably all you'll get done. I suspect that will take you between 15 minutes to half an hour to do. Okay. So the next time, then you want them to find more words, have them open up books, any books that they're reading, or go to Article a Day with them, or any other online and see if they can find more words that follow the pattern. Have them try to find yabbats, words that don't follow the pattern. And then I'm going to show you sound pattern clue books. For right now, they can do it in their regular notebook, what they use for their writing, okay? But by fall, we'll have special notebooks for them. Sue will be very busy this summer. All right. You may or may not remember this from one of our first trainings when I showed you what spelling by pattern was about, but this would be the first pattern you're going to do with your students. And what you're going to say is, word detectives, today we're going to study words that begin with the sound K. Remember, when you see the slashes, you say the sound, not the name of the letter. Sort these words into two boxes according to how the k sound is spelled at the beginning of the words. So, Lexi, as you look at that, what two boxes would you sort them into?
C and then K's.
Yep, you'd sort them into C and K. So when the kids get done with that, and I'll be showing you how to do that online. Okay, so now they're sorted. What did you discover? What's the clue for spelling k at the beginning of the words? And they should start to see that if k comes before an I or an E, you spell it with K. If they're not sure, you can say, look at the letter that comes next. Most of the time you'll learn these spelling patterns by looking at the pattern, the sound just after it or just before. And then if you look at C, it's A, U, O, and a U. A, O, or U. Okay, so that's the pattern. And I'll show you a little bit more about that now. But Bridget, does it make a difference if the vowel sound is short or long?
I don't think so.
No, because you've got keep, kite, you've got cute over here, you've got coat here. And so it doesn't make a difference. It makes a difference on the letter that follows. Okay. So this is how to set up a spelling by pattern whiteboard. And then I'll show you also one that one of our grantees used with Jamboard. Have either of you used Jamboard? Okay. Either whiteboard or Jamboard will work for this. This is how to set up the ending. Sorry. The spelling pattern lesson for today is at the end of a word. Tell the students that they should sort these words written in green according to how is spelled at the end of the word. And that's the beginning of it. After they do the sorting, they will figure out why. So the first one is tack, and you could maybe put that down for them. And then you say, all right, lock. Does lock end the same or does it end differently? And they would say, yes, that one also belongs under tack. Now let's take a look at park. How is the k at the end of the word spelled? And your students should say, oh, that's different, so I put it over in this one. And that's how they do it. They continue because black, the k ends with CK, they put it there. Ink goes there. Meek goes in the second one. Soak in the one on the right. Dunk. Luck ends in CK, so it goes on the left. Cook will go on the right. Net goes on the one on the left. Milk on the right because it ends in K. Sulk ends in K, so it goes here. Sack goes on the left. And truck goes on the left. Now, the question is, why? Why are some words ending in CK and other words ending in K? And one of the things you can tell your students is to look at the letters that come before the end. What do you see? And by the way, it is the pattern on the left that will tell them what the pattern actually is. So they'll probably say, oh, they're all vowels. And then you'll say, yes, but what kind of vowel? And then they can see that, oh, it's a short vowel. And that's different because in some cases it ends in a vowel, but it's not, it's a variant vowel or a long vowel. In some cases, there's an L before the K. In some cases, there's an N and an R. So there's no real pattern to when it's K. The real pattern is if you hear a short vowel before guess CK. That's the pattern. Otherwise, guess K. So, to summarize, the k at the end of a one-syllable word is if you hear a short vowel before the k in a word that you don't know how to spell, guess CK. If you hear k after any other vowel sound or consonant, guess K. Okay, so what you see here is one of the ways you could present this online. You know, create a word bank for the ending k, which by the way is going to be the second pattern you teach. Beginning k will be the first one, okay? And then when you have written out your what the pattern is, you could have your student copy this in a notebook. And you could have and put a tag, a little tag on the, you know, a tab that says ending, so that he'll know where to look to find other words. So that should be your first day. Any questions about this? Okay. This would probably, like I said, take you at least 15 minutes, maybe up to half hour for kids to do this. And then after that, you'll be looking for more words, okay? This one is AI, AY.
Because we talked about the long A sound and the spelling AI and AY. So could you do a word start with these? Okay. Oh, so why are you putting those separate? Why are you dividing them like the way you are?
Well, because one of them has AY and the other one has AI.
Okay. We'll get to.
And the AYs are at the end and the AIs are in the middle.
Okay, so that was real short to show why, to sort out AI in the middle, AY at the end, okay? So that's that long A. By the way, you will often see in this manual that the vowels are written with what's called a macron, a straight line above them. That means they're the long vowel sound. Okay, and I usually say long vowel also at the same time. Okay, now testing. The challenge them are going to be above grade level words and non-words. They're in your manual. They'll get 1 point for spelling the pattern correctly. So even if the whole rest of the word is wrong, if, for example, beginning k, they spell it with either a K-I or K-E, it follows the pattern. And then if they spell it either phonetically or correctly, they get a bonus point. Okay? The important thing is the pattern correct. And then you can dictate a pattern-based sentence too if you want. You can have them writing some with you. When you want them to really be extending that pattern before you test because you think they need more practice, you could have them developing pattern-based stories with you. This is the kindly king gave his coat to the cuddly kitten who was cold and confused, right? Okay, this is probably our first and greatest interventionist, Denise Chihos, years ago working on testing the pattern for the beginning with a little girl.
And you're going to put it in either the k that begins with a K bubble, or you're going to put it in the k that begins with a C bubble, based on what you learned before. Okay? Keep in mind, kitten in the kettle or cute cat on a cot. Right? You ready? And this is a real simple one, but it starts easy. Coat. Coat. How about kennel? Okay, that's sound by sound by sound, right? Now I'm going to tell you that that's not spelled in classroom spelling yet. You did it by sound, which is good, but you did the part that I wanted you to for sure get right. You knew that the next sound was the F, so you started with a K. Okay. So the next word is kingdom. Kingdom. Canister.
I'm going to stop it there because you can see that she knows the pattern. Okay. And Denise has taught her two mnemonics, kitten in a kettle and cute cat on a cot. I would suggest just doing kitten in a kettle. Teaching just one side of the pattern and otherwise guess the other one is a really good way to teach these patterns. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now, escape. I'm going to stop share for a minute. We're going to be looking at some of the pages of the manual now. Okay. Where's my, okay. Okay. So I got a new dock camera. It's just exciting for me. This is should be page, where's my pages? Page 5. Page 5. Is that page 5 for you? The sequence? Okay. I want you to notice one thing. Beginnings, you will have a new one. I'll be sending it to Sue so she can send it on to you. That one just had way too many exceptions, so I'm going to do beginning J. So J and G, okay? However, I think maybe I'm going to have you, with the short amount of time you have left this spring, go to the first two patterns, beginning K and ending K, just like we did, and then skip down to long vowel A. Long vowels are the most complex, and so let's plan on trying to get those 3 patterns for sure this spring, okay? But Bridget, if you're teaching it to second graders, in this sequence would be really good to do. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
If we have a student who has already done those 3 patterns, where would you suggest we go next?
Also done the long A.
Mm-hmm.
And no problem with, yeah, but did you do AY, AI, A-E? Because the pattern.
I don't think we did A-E.
No, because I didn't include it before. So do that one, do this one as a review. Start
okay,
here.
So okay.
Start here and just say we're going to review and there'll be a little bit new.
Sounds
okay.
good.
Good question. All right. Now, part of getting ready to teach this, if you're teaching face-to-face, is to get some whiteboards ready. Now you'll be doing those as soundboards, you know, on either on Jamboard or whatever. And I wanted to show you, this is what the Spelling Patterns clue books will look like next fall. They will, I need to take it down some. What we will be doing is making tabs as around in red on both sides here. And you notice this is horizontal instead of the regular way. You can use the regular way for this spring, I think, and see how it goes. But and then the vowels here. The reason I did it horizontal is I'll show you, because I set up the sound A. You're eventually going to be teaching 4 different patterns. The first one, Bridget, that you're going to review has 3. But after you've done open closed, you're going to be doing 4 pattern sort with A. That's why I'd like you to review these 3 first. So on one page, and it's okay if you want to do it in their regular notebook and just have them make columns this way, that's fine for this spring. So, but in the fall, they'll have that. And then in the facing page, they have yabbats, a page to put their yabbats and any notes, like, you know, stories they write, or the yabbats being the ones that don't fit and what you found out by going to etymology online. Okay. And this, of course, as you can see, has plenty of room to add new words. Okay. So once they've done a sort, have them do a page with the words, and then maybe another page where they make the yabbat, so you have and some notes. Just okay. This is what, if you were using a whiteboard, this is what their whiteboard would look like. Okay. So Bridget, if you're doing it in a classroom, to have one of these where you've got the black lines as permanent, and then wipe offs for the words would be a great way to do that. Okay. So Lexi, you're going to be starting with beginning. And in fact, Bridget, you might briefly review, let me go up, the beginning. Okay. And by the way, notice I have here a kid speak pattern advice. This up here is for you. This is the teacher pattern. This down here is kid speak. When you hear an unknown word that starts with K, followed by I or E, guess K, otherwise guess C. Okay, you take the side of the pattern that's the easiest to remember and then tell them otherwise guess. So there's a word sort, and then Bridget, you might want to test, say, do you remember your patterns, your beginning patterns? Because this is a non-word, kump, kint, kend, kelper, ketep, kassen, kaspen. And then these are pretty complex words for second graders anyway. Okay. And so Lexi, when they really know that when your kids really that are going to do this really know how to sort this and what it is, and they found some more words to go with it, and maybe found some yabbats, then you give them the test. And you score the test with them while they talk. Why did you choose a K? And by the way, if they spell Kend as K-I-N-D, you still give them pattern credit because it is an I or an E. Any questions on that? No? Good. Moving right along. You got the same thing with ending. Bridget, what may be new in this one are 2-syllable sorts. Okay. So, Lexi, you would start with the one syllable sort and test them on the one syllable sort. And Bridget, you might just test them on a few of these and then move right into this. So basically when suffixes are added, it's really pretty true of English. Whenever suffixes are added to the base word, you still have to remember, what are you hearing before the k sound? Okay. And so that's how you test two syllable words. Okay. Now, I'm going to skip that one and we'll go right to the long A. Now, it is true there are three ways. It's AI or A-E in the middle of the word. Okay. And you need to talk about how they're not going to be able to guess whether it's going to be AI or A-E because there is no separate pattern. There is for ending, like that girl in the Jamboard lesson, AI at the end, AI in the middle. But if they were one syllable words, it could have been also A-E. So here's where it's important to say that, once you read a lot, you're going to know which ones are A-E. So we really need to pay attention as you read. Okay. Now, another little bit of Old English history that you might want to talk about is that actually that E, the silent E or the magic E, kids sometimes learn, wasn't silent back in old English. In Anglo-Saxon English, it was pronounced. So the word that we know now as hate used to be pronounced as hetta. The eh became an A, but the disappeared. Okay. The other thing that happened is the typesetters, when the printing press was invented, weren't really English. They were Flemish. They didn't care about spelling, but they wanted the right end of their lines to right justify. You know how when you choose right justification, it lines up on the right end. So they added E to a lot of words. And we're stuck with a lot of those words today. All right. So it's you've got your word sort. Once they've sorted and they found other words, they've hopefully found some yabbits that you could look up with them. And they put that in their notebook. Then here's the test. And notice, like pateful, I spell two ways because they could spell it either way. And when you score it, you can talk about that. This can be spelled either way. So either way that you did it, or if you're working with one student and she spelled it P-A-K-E, you could say that's correct. Is there another way you could have spelled that same word? Okay. No questions so far. All right. So are both of you real conversant with open and closed syllables? Yes, no? All right. There is probably this is probably one of the most important understandings of how written English is pronounced. Okay. So be sure you spend as much time. So I'm going to ask you, what's the difference between go and got? Son and so. I got on there twice. I got to fix that. No and not. What's the difference?
In how they sound or how they're spelled?
how the vowel sounds. Good question. I should have told you that.
One's a short vowel and one's a long vowel.
And what makes it short? What makes it long?
The short vowel sounds have a consonant after them.
That's right. That's the closed syllable. The consonant protects that vowel and it makes it short. If it ends in a vowel, it's and in syllables, it's almost always a long vowel. It's not always. We'll talk about that near the end of the manual, but that's next year. Okay. So this is a very, very important understanding for the kids to understand. That if a syllable or a word, you would start with just words, very short words to begin with. They'd line up their long vowels and their short vowel sounds in 2 columns, right? And discover exactly what Bridget said. Bridget, did your student with the spelling by pattern get this far last year?
I just have been working with a student for spelling by pattern this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did not do this yet.
Okay. Spend as much time as you need on this. This one's different. You're not going to test. You're going to show them. And I'm going to switch to this. So you're going to show them how to syllabicate using basically 2 guidelines. If there's one syllable, one constant here, put a dot on your 2 vowels. If there's only one consonant in between, you slash before the consonant. Okay, let me give you another one. Again, if you have them dot, there and there are the vowels. Now you see in this one, there's 2 consonants. When there are 2 consonants, you slash between the consonants. Okay. There are some other ways to break consonants, break syllables, but for the words in this lesson, I only gave words that would follow these 2 patterns for consonant breaks, syllable breaks. So how would you, if you were to ask a student, how would you, from what you know about open and closed syllables, how would you pronounce that? And they should say ho. And this one should be ping, camping. So this one's open, this one's closed, this one's closed, this one's closed. So that's what you want them to do with words. Here's another one. You dot your vowels. Where would you put your slash, Lexi?
Would you put it between the 2 P's?
Yep. You put it between. And so it makes this one closed. It's hop. And this one stays closed. It's ping. Okay. Bridget, what about this one?
That the slash would come before the S.
And so what is this one? Open or closed?
Open.
Yeah. What's this one?
Closed. So it'd be sin.
Okay. So you see what you'll be doing with students? This is a very, very important lesson because the last one that I want to go through today, looks like we will finish in time for what you need to go to next, is a 4-column sort. That's pattern 9. Okay. So today you're going to do A again, and this time you'll need 4 columns. and they need to label the columns according to how A is spelled. And it would be, the labels would be AE, AI, AY, or open syllable A. That's the labels after they sort. Okay. And then you could also ask them, what happens to the silent E in an A-E word when endings are added? So for example, do I have one there? Yep, skate. You don't need it because you got the I, that disappears, so that you don't have too many vowels in that last syllable. So how would you pronounce this? Lexi, how would you pronounce that one if you were asking a student?
Would it be acron?
Acron. Yep. Good. Good, good. Because that's open syllable A, isn't it? Acron. Now that's an interesting one because usually, you know what? I'm going to take that off. ACOM, because it fits the pattern better. Bridget, how would you pronounce this one?
I'm not sure if it would be a long or a short vowel at the beginning.
What would make you think it's a long one?
I'm not sure because I'm not sure how to split up that when there's the 3 consonants.
Yeah, you're right. The PR goes with the second one. So it is Osprey.
Osprey, okay.
I will change that one to Osprey. So just take away the one, then it does it. I'm sorry. Every time I teach this, I'm going to learn all the mistakes I made. Okay. Because it's later on that you learn what you do when there's 3 consonants. Good. Okay. Notice that flame can be spelled 2 ways. And how would you, okay, Bridget, how would you pronounce the next one?
Would that one be supplier?
Yep. Yep. Good. And of course, prainer. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop share. That was a real quick tour through some of these patterns. I think that once you get into them with your student, you're going to enjoy it because you'll be thinking about, and again, you don't have to be the experts here. You can say that, well, you can even say that the person who wrote this manual found some mistakes when she went back through it, because English language is complex. But if you know these basic patterns, you're going to be a good speller. And if you read a lot, you're going to learn to spell better also. You just really reinforce for the long vowel sounds, because it'll come up with O also, that the A-E or O-E cannot be distinguished from the other pattern for the middle sound, but it will be if you read a lot. You'll recognize, you'll remember which ones are that. Any last question? No? Okay. Have fun with this.